Hello and welcome to Just a Moment. My name is Kristen Harding. Today, my very, very special guest is Jenna Lee. Welcome to the show, Jenna.
Hi, Kristen. Hi, everybody.
So, this is actually our part two because we tried to do it and we did not have success. But this time, it looks like the audio is good, the video is good, and we both have power sources.
Yeah.
So, let's just do it. So,
Okay.
let's just review, and if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm an energy healer, a Reiki master teacher, and I'm also an intuitive spiritual coach, which means like I help people address the things that they're uncomfortable with or the challenges that they're facing using spiritual principles. Like we learn because it's all learning for me too as I'm doing it, even though I'm practiced in it. But we learn how to apply spiritual principles to our problems instead of when people say, "Well, I don't need all that spiritual stuff. This is real life. This is down on the ground real life," and not people have a hard time connecting that the spiritual principles are the answers to our problems today.
Right,
So helping people learn how to take the idea and put it into practical practice.
right. Remembering that we are a spiritual being in a physical body.
Yes, exactly. And that we are constantly supported by the universe in whatever it is that we're facing or celebrating, or the challenges and the celebrations. We forget, but the universe doesn't forget.
Indeed,
you know
indeed. So, what would you like to talk about today? Would you like to talk about guides, or do you have a message, or what would you like to chat about?
Well, first, I'd like to answer the question that you asked me before my phone cut off on me last time.
Thank you.
And you wanted to know if my guides had a message
Yes,
for, um, I don't remember exactly how you put it, but like society as a whole.
right. For
You might have
humanity is what I usually say.
talking. Yeah. So I've said it to you before, and it's the same. And it has a profound impact to me, and it's that you are the gift that you brought to this world.
Right,
So who you are is exactly what this world needs. Now we may have to do a whole lot of deprogramming, deconditioning in order to get to who you really are.
mm-hmm.
But who you really are is what you brought. You are already a whole being, a whole person when you came here.
Yes,
And that is what
unfractured, unfractured by what we have experienced. I agree with
abs-
you.
absolutely. And that's what you brought. Yes, we have our challenges, but overcoming those challenges, we came with everything that we need in order to get through those challenges. We're already equipped for it. Now, we might not know how to change the battery in a car, or, I mean, bigger things than that, but we may not know how to apply it, those physical material, how to do things.
Right.
But we actually do have the how to move through it. when I mean, the number one thing is that we have to be honest with ourselves.
Right.
And when we're
Well,
honest with ourselves, then the universe gives us everything that we need that we may seem to be missing.
exactly. Because when we go to school, not all of us know how to read a book. We can
Right.
hold the book, we can see the book, but we can't understand the book until we learn the alphabet.
Right.
So tuning into the spiritual messages that our guides have for us is something that I'm not sure a lot of people understand is available to them at any time.
Right.
All they need to really, in my understanding, is to focus on what they need and to send that inquiry up, and you'll get an answer.
Right.
Is that how you connected with your guides? I guess I should ask, when did you first connect?
Um, I didn't really know that I was connecting with them when I first started kind of practicing, like about 8 years ago. I mean, I had sort of a, I guess you would say it was, oh, what's the word? I'm not familiar with the psychic terminology so much because I lean more toward the spiritual gifts or the
Mhm.
gifts of the spirit rather than, okay, so I see psychic ability and gifts of the spirit as having two different sources. Like we all have the capacity for it, but the gifts of the spirit come from our relationship with spirit. When we put spirit, when we put our relationship with, and I'll use the word God, when we, but I really mean the highest of gods,
Yeah.
because you can pray to a god and have all sorts of imposters show up. But
Source creator is what I say.
yeah, and some people say source, and sometimes I'll say the original source, or because the whole demiurge and other things. But
Right.
you know, I would clairvoyance, that's the word. It would be
Okay.
like it was just a natural, but I didn't know that I had it. Other people noticed it, you know. So I must have had some connection with my guides because I was, at that time, I had a really strong spiritual practice. I was praying in the morning. I had prayers throughout the day when I'd run into situations that I was uncertain about. Um, I would pray before if the phone rang. I was taught to do this. It, it's not like I was just that great. It was like I had a mentor that was teaching me, and I was trying to do everything that she told me to do. And so I was, if the phone rang, I prayed before I answered that phone. And then I had a practice at night where would, like we were talking about earlier, where I would review my actions and see
Mhm.
what corrective measures I needed to take.
I kind of call it like a soul inventory
Yeah,
because you want to make sure that you are on the path that Source Creator wants you on, not your own.
right, right. Very, very, very. I'm sorry. I wanted to compliment you for that. That's very good. That's and very precise. Um, so I had this kind of intuition working for me that I didn't know, but then I ran across a group on Facebook that it was only because they had the word empath in there. They had
Mhm.
people that were trying to develop their psychic abilities and their mediumship and all this other stuff, but the word empath really drew me to it. So when I started interacting with this group, kind of came out of my hiding in the corner and just watching. Somebody kind
Mhm.
of through, pulled me into it a little bit more. um, they started challenging me to try these different exercises.
Okay.
And I found through that I could read people, like they would put a picture of somebody up there and then ask, then whatever you pick up, go ahead and put in the comments section. And I was writing like books about, comments type
Right.
books about
Right.
people. And other people were writing out, well, I see the color blue, and maybe um there's something that you're holding that you got from your grandma or something, where I was writing a book
Right.
about their challenges. And I didn't I mean, it just flowed out. So that's when, but one of their instructions was to ask your guides to connect with the other person's guides. Well, I didn't know that I really believed in guides at the time, but I went
Sure.
ahead and did that. And it seemed like that communication flowed pretty well. But when
Do
it
you?
really, hmm?
Oh, go ahead. I was going to ask you a question, but go ahead.
Well, when it really, I guess, blossomed for me was after I'd had a hysterectomy and I almost died because of a botched surgery. Now, it took me several months to recover from that, and I actually had to go back to the hospital a few times. They actually, after the initial surgery, within 24 hours, I had to go back in so that they could correct because I was bleeding out. It ended up
You're
taking 5 weeks.
hemorrhaging. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I do
yeah,
understand this. I had an 8-day hemorrhage after my second child. And when things don't shut down right, or as you say, it got botched,
yeah.
you really could have easily lost your life. I'm so glad that
Yeah.
you chose to stay.
It took 5 units of blood to keep me alive between the first surgery and the third surgery.
Yep.
So, I
Mm.
the blood pressure cuff couldn't get a reading on my blood pressure. And it was like that for almost a full 24 hours until they figured out what the problem was. So I was barely alive
So
for a
you were
while.
near death.
Yeah. So then after I got recovered from that, um, now there's kind of two things, but I
Mhm.
was back in that group and I was practicing, and it seemed like my intuition about people was even sharper than it had been before, where I was given more details instead of like general storylines.
Yep.
But then I also, because they had been some of the people in the group had been so helpful in helping me recover by giving me Reiki, which I had no idea what that was.
Oh,
Um,
sending light is such a beautiful thing. Daryl is asking how much blood is in a unit, and I'm not sure about that.
you know what? I don't actually know that either. I know it's not like a full pint. Like when you go donate blood, you give a full pint of blood, but a unit is actually much smaller, maybe a third of that,
Okay.
from just visually measuring it when it's hanging from the pole.
But the point was that you needed blood.
Right, right. And it should I was losing the blood just about as fast as they could put it in me.
Oh my goodness, deja vu. I'm sorry. I know exactly what you're talking about. If my
Mhm.
husband had not, apparently I sent out a psychic distress call because my husband was in the mid, he was a cook at the time, and he's my husband. We're not married anymore, but we're still very good friends.
Uh-huh.
And he was in the middle of a lunch rush. He was a cook, and he looked at his boss and said, "I've got to call my wife." And the boss was like, "What?" So he calls me and I didn't answer and he ran home. He flew.
Mhm.
And I was there and I was unconscious. And had he not shown up, I would have died. So I really do understand how precariously close to death you probably were.
Right, right.
Wow. So
But
they
then when
got
I
it
came
under
out,
control,
yeah, but when I came out of the surgery, you know how you're out of it from the anesthesia,
right?
and it takes a long time for you to wake up, and like if somebody, they tell you what they did, or the doctors come in to talk to you, and they have to do it 4 or 5 times because you don't remember the first times because you're
Right.
still under sedation. I
Right.
came out of that surgery, and while I was still in the recovery room, which you spend an hour in that recovery room before they send you to your room, I ended up having a full-on conversation with my nurse, who had originally he was he had studied, he'd gone to seminary school, so he was going to become a preacher. But then he switched gears and became, and I remember his name, I remember the conversation. I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and he said that in all his years of working as a nurse in that department, he never had somebody come out of sedation that alert and that coherent. And that I didn't do that. That wasn't me. That was the spiritual help that I had.
Hmm.
And that's those people that were giving me Reiki that did that for me. So I I felt like I didn't know what that stuff was, but I had to learn it.
Right.
If I could learn it, then that's what I wanted to be able to do for other people. I wanted to be able to help other people in the way that they had helped me. So,
Do you think,
and that's
do you think,
also when
I was going to say, is that part of your soul mission is to help?
yes. When you look at my numerology and my astrology chart, I mean, any kind of way you want to to kind of break it down and look at it, it always comes back to me being a teacher. But it's not just a teacher; it's in a spiritual realm.
Right. Right.
So the the thing is that once I became attuned to Reiki and learned how to practice it, then I also found out that angels and demons are real
Yeah.
because I didn't really believe in them. I mean,
Right.
in all of my spiritual studies that I started when I was 16 years old, yes, I ran across it in all of the literature, but somehow that stuff just flew right over my head. That was not what I paid attention to. Now I realize that 60% of the Bible is dealing with demons, but somehow that just didn't register for me this whole time. And now not only can I see them, I can I don't identify them. Like I don't know what they're, like this kind of demon or that kind of demon or whatever. I but I can identify what they're there for, what their purpose is, how they gained access, and I can help to remove them. And when I say help, it's important that I don't take credit for doing it myself
Right.
because my guides and angels are involved and I'm just following instructions. I get to
Right.
participate, and then
That's
I
why
get,
it's effective because you're humble.
well, it's at least trying to be honest that
Hmm.
I'm not, I'm not the superhero that goes in and, slays the demon. That's not what
I understand
happens.
this. I am on a similar where I will enlighten people, I will open their eyes, but I'm not the demon slayer either.
Right, right, right.
Christopher
But
Peebles is in the audience, and he says consciousness expresses as anything in anyone that you can know, that you cannot feel, perceived, think about, etc., without exception.
okay, let me read that again. Consciousness expresses as
As
anything in anyone that you can no longer feel. I'm not following that very well.
Yeah, I think he said it fast. So let's see. Consciousness expresses as anything and anyone that you cannot feel or perceive or think about, etc. Maybe is that sounds a little better, but I don't know. We'll have to ask him. What did you mean, Christopher?
Yeah, give me a little bit more because it sounds interesting.
And Daryl says he's glad that we're both okay.
Hi, Daryl.
And we're not dwelling on this. Obviously for both of us, it was a very long time ago. But to be that close to death is
Yeah,
when I think some of us see that there is more to life than what we thought before, because
yeah,
we get a choice to stay or to go. And when
Yes.
we have that choice, then we understand that this is really real. It's really like more important to us because we've tasted and tested our mortality. Do you agree?
Yeah. Oh, yes. My entire focus on life and um, what I felt drawn to being involved in and drawn to um, participating in and and finding room, like doors open so that I could participate in, completely changed from how I'd been before the surgery.
Right.
You know, before the surgery, I had a strong spiritual um, I had a strong spiritual life, but there was still kind of like a wall. Like I
Mhm.
knew that I was receiving help. I knew that I was getting direction, but I didn't hear it. I didn't sense it. I couldn't consciously interact with it as a two-way communication, you know.
You know
It,
it's there, but you weren't walking the path yet. Is that
well,
close?
no, I was definitely walking a path. I was definitely on a very disciplined path for a time, and I think that that's pretty important. Um, my relationship with God, or the spirit of the universe, was was strong, and it was my lifeline because I'm also a recovering alcoholic, so it was saving my life to have that relationship with the spirit of the universe. um, but the signs and were the, my awareness of it took a lot of attention,
Right.
and it was subtle. My experiences of feedback were very subtle, or they might come just through other people, which they still come through other people. But
Right.
it just wasn't the same as now. It's almost like I can pick up the phone and talk with it. They don't speak my language, they don't speak English, they speak in concepts,
Right.
that just kind of get like awakened in my mind when I ask a question, or somebody asks me a question, and my first response is going to be, I don't know. And then poof, I suddenly know. And then I'm able to communicate that, you know, that kind of a two-way or direct. I don't know how to put it in any better words. You know, it's just
You you got to a point where you could receive the messages and not doubt them, maybe?
well, I will doubt them later, but I don't doubt them at the moment. At the moment,
Mhm.
I'm absolutely certain, there's no doubt, it's just what it is. And then afterward, it's like, oh, that can't be real. you
How did
know?
I know this, right?
Yeah,
There's no way I could
right.
know this. How did I know that? No, I hear
But
you.
that's me doubting me, not
Mhm.
not doubting them, you
Right.
know, not doubting the universal consciousness, which I think Daryl was speaking toward, was the universal consciousness that
Well,
permeates everything.
Daryl says, I work and call in angels. All we have to do is ask.
Yes,
And
yes.
then Katie
And
says,
I
bomber angels.
bomber angels. Well, I know
Bomber
about
angels.
warrior angels, but I'm not sure about bomber angels. You have to
I
tell
think
me
he
more
was being
about that.
silly.
Yeah, you have to
I
tell me
think
more
he was
about
just,
that because that sounds interesting.
yeah. Let's see what else we have here. Christopher Peeble says, angelic beings are evolved humans, ETs, or non-physical guides. I don't
Yeah, it's
disagree with
still,
that.
I think it's still kind of a mystery what their actual nature is. We try to do our best based on our accumulated and our own intuition. But honestly, we're still guessing, you know,
Right? Right?
but it is extremely important that we develop and that we ask for um, the power of discernment and that
Yes.
we apply discernment. In the
Yes.
Bible, it says to trust no spirit. We're supposed to test every spirit. Like
Indeed.
even my guides had to be vetted, which that's using a term that's pretty popular in the news right now. But, I had to test whoever was showing up as my guides that are you really here for my best interest? Are we really partners? Or are you coming in to divert,
Manipulate.
yeah, divert my path, you
Right?
know?
And I'm glad you do that because really we have to be so careful. And the way that I do it is this a positive message? Does this bring goodness? Does this bring a benefit to somebody? If it doesn't, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Oh, I've got something that I'd like to teach people if, I mean, they may already know,
Oh,
but
what's
I'd
up
like to
that?
teach it.
I'd love
You
it.
know, when when we hear messages and we have a hard time differentiate, determining, is that really me thinking it? Is it my imagination? Or was it a message? Was it an inspiration? And I will promise you that early on, I I was quick to respond to something that I thought was an inspiration when actually what it was an impulse. And
Ah,
so I'd follow that impulse and be so enthusiastic about this is what God wants, this is the answer to my life, or this is what God wants me to be doing. And oh, it must be because they showed up at right this moment. And I had not learned how to tell the difference between my little spontaneous thoughts and what are inspirations. Well, one thing is that you can wait on an inspiration.
mm-hmm.
You're given kind of little signs here and there, and then it'll be like the number 3 is really good. When there's a third time, then you really need to pay attention to that message.
Exactly.
So,
It's like you gotta let it simmer. And
yeah,
if it simmers and you still want to do it and you still want to do it and it's positive, do it.
right. Well, and another thing is, say it is an urgent situation, your body will start moving toward whatever it is before you've had the thought, because the full communication is happening through your entire energetic being. So that might end up saving a dog's life or saving a person's life, or um, preventing something. It'll happen kind of like an instinct or a reflex.
Right.
So those ones we certainly trust. Um, but then the others, say we're praying and we're trying to get an answer. Well, a lot of times we're going to get some silence and we'll end up getting some symbols, and it'll be like the same message shows up usually 3 times. There's just a thing about 3 times. But there's another thing that I've learned that's pretty important, and we actually use the language without understanding what it means. Like, think about right now, whoever's listening, or listens in the future, when you're thinking right now, your thought, if you try to place it, like, where is my thought in my head? Your thought is probably going to be right behind your eyes. Okay. That's usually where your consciousness seems to be functioning from. But you know how sometimes we get that warning that something in the back of my head said, or something in the back of my brain told me such and such, or we also get the temptations that'll be like in the back of the head. But
Right.
when we talk about higher thought, you get the higher thought that actually comes from here. And that thought is more like hearing a thought. It's not
Mhm.
one that you've had. It's one that it's crystal clear. There's no fear. There's no anxiety. There's no jubilance or excitement. It's just clear, and it will be in this area. It'll be your higher thought. So when you're actually reaching to connect with your guides or to connect with your soul, which I'm not saying where the seat of the soul is, so that's not what I'm talking about, your higher self, or when you're reaching toward God, literally reach higher and see what happens there, because it's very hard to think from that area. Like, you can move, like if you consciously think about it, you can kind of move the center of conscious thought. You can bring it around, but you can't really bring it here, as in your own thought, without feeling a lot of resistance and blockage. But you can receive here the higher thought. So to think about the language that we use and actually apply it to your communication efforts.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just something I wanted to throw out there. That's
I
something
like
that people, when they're meditating or when they're asking questions, that bring those thoughts up higher, aim them higher, and then see if you get responses. It'll be calm. It'll just be matter of fact, and it'll be instant. There won't be any argument going on. It'll just be an automatic, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So if
I
I'm
like
not, if I'm trying to say, I've tried to click in with my guides, and I haven't done a very good job of clearing out my consciousness, and instead I'm still focused about me and what somebody's going to be thinking about me, and am I going to be accurate, and can I really do this, and all that blah 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 crap, then I'm not working from up here. I'm working from in here.
Right.
And that's how that lets me notice that I need to raise, because it's not an honest communication. It's coming from my own consciousness, unaided. And that if I'm going to make that connection, I've got to raise my consciousness. Like, literally about that there's a meaning behind those words,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that are practical, that we can put into play.
I agree. It's break time. You want to come back in
Okay.
for a minute?
Sure.
Sounds awesome. We will be back in just a moment with just a moment.
Okay.
Welcome to Crystal Cove and Mystic Charms, where magic meets the mundane and the extraordinary becomes everyday. Are you ready to gift yourself with the whispers of ancient power stones? To feel and hear the echoes of our ancient past? Dive into a world where each pendant tells a story, where rare stones hold secrets known only to the universe itself. At Crystal Cove, our collection isn't just jewelry. It's a gateway to a realm of mysticism and wonder. Let the shimmering opal guide you through twilight dreams, or embrace the fiery energy of the sun with our exquisite amber pendants. Each piece, handcrafted by the hands of a true mystic who understand the language of the earth and the fire of one's heart. At Crystal Cove and Mystic Charms, we believe that every soul deserves to sparkle. Whether you seek solace in the calming embrace of amethyst or wish to dance with the vibrant hues of turquoise, our collection holds the key to unlocking your inner magic if you allow it to be so. Visit us today and discover the pendant that speaks to your soul. Crystal Cove and Mystic Charms, where the beauty of our amazing earthy realm meets the magic of the cosmos.
Hey there, Hunter. Go check out our friends at Colorado Custom Game Calls. They are all about creating a high-quality, custom, unique game calls at an affordable price. They are here for hunters that can't and won't pay upwards of $180 to $200 per game call. They pride themselves on giving their customers the opportunity to not only purchase an affordable and high-quality call, but to customize their game call to their liking. So listen up and go check them out. That's www.coloradocustomgamecalls.com. They got calls for all type of game, and all the game calls can be custom made to your own likeness. That's www.coloradocustomgamecalls.com. Tell them Matthew sent you from the Matrix Minds.
What is up, all my beautiful and gorgeous souls? I am Michelle Espinosa, otherwise known as the Shaman, through the Matrix Mind Media. So tell me, how many times have you wished that you had that special power of prediction? You know, to know what was going to happen before it actually happened and took place. To have some power and control over that situation before things came flying at you out of left field. The thing is, you actually can have that power. You can be aware of what's coming. Tune in to Astrology TV with me for Breaking the Cage every Sunday evening at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Matrix Mind Media. And I will go through the astrology and help put you on the right course and get you back in control of your own life. Love you guys.
This CBD fluid is a whole flower fluid extracted from the cannabis flower. We don't use any heat, butane, or chemicals when we extract, so we get all of the components of the plant. All the CBD, CBG, CBA, all the terpenes, all the flavonoids. This allows our body to absorb at 60 to 90% rather than the average of 6 to 10% absorption you would get with a CBD oil. Because our bodies are made up of mostly water and this is a fluid, it's highly absorbable so that you're getting 500% more nutraceuticals per dose. We also have this available in our CBD spray as well as a muscle rub with all kinds of botanicals. You're going to absolutely love it.
Check it out, Brainiacs. MatrixMinds.live/CBD. CBD I use. Feel free again. Feel alive again.
Welcome back to Just a Moment with my guest, Jenna Lee. We have gone into so many fascinating aspects of spirituality in just this little bit of time that we've talked about, but could you tell us a little bit about your guides specifically? Like, are they past relatives or are they your oversoul or is it someone from history? Is it an angel? Could you tell us?
Um, from my guides, I don't. Okay, so there's spirit beings that I'm pretty sure have chosen to have lives, incarnate lives. And I believe that I have also served as a spirit guide, with them. Like we're a team.
Right.
And this time I'm in the actually multitude of incarnate lives, throughout the many multiverse, multi-earth thing that's happening simultaneously. But then again, time and space don't exist, so it all happens at once anyway.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff, according to Doctor Who.
Absolutely. And I love Doctor Who.
So do I.
And normally I wouldn't have said it that way, but I've become aware that Matrix Minds audience are already more advanced in their thinking. So I kind of figured that most people know what I just said, about the multiverse and the multiple Earths and all happening at the same time.
Parallel universes compressing, timelines compressing. I mean, wow, what a time to live in, right?
Right. And to have even a dim awareness of that is fascinating, and to be able to travel from timeline to timeline in order to find. Hmm?
Just going to ask you that. Have you traveled from timeline to timeline?
I have, but remember that I'm primarily a healer. So when I do that kind of traveling, it is to find the source of a problem that somebody's having, and sometimes that means that they've moved timelines between lives. Um, it's just I don't I don't know that that's what I'm doing when I'm doing it. It's kind of like going down a road and having to take a left turn and a right turn, and then I realize afterward, oh my gosh, I am in the past as we understand the past, and it's not even this earth. It is the earth, but it's not even this earth, like a constructed curse that was generational, that I found that the original curse was cast in on a different earth, you
Okay.
know. So I tend to lack the the language that comes with the paranormally aware community, and I do that intentionally because I don't want to get an idea and then try to, because then that would be fake. So I
Right.
let my guides and my and the angels, but I let those beings communicate to me, and so I end up having to try to describe something that I don't have the language that people are used to hearing or
That
communicate
just,
with.
in my humble opinion, that just makes you more authentic.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's the truth. And to be able to connect even with your past life self, um, that's something that for me has been a bit of a challenge. I've had
Yes.
a few where I was not very nice,
Mm,
and that was hard to own, because in this lifetime, it may sound cheesy, but I always knew that I was here to enlighten and entertain, and
hmm
I had a mission. I stayed on my mission, even though there were times where I felt like, dare I say it, I was in the presence of soul slayers. That if I gave them an opportunity, they would just take my light away. And we
Right.
can't do that. We cannot put ourselves in situations like that that are unhealthy because it does dim our light. So, how do your guides communicate with you? Do you go into a meditative state?
Well, it's different at different times. I guess uh, depending on the need or whether I'm paying attention and they need my attention or what. But when I am going to work with somebody, which is when I get the clearest communication, is when it's not about myself, when it's about somebody else, then I set aside everything else. I ground and I center and I connect. Well, I ground, connect, and then center. Um, and then even if I'm not trying to like give Reiki to somebody or do energy healing, I still invite those energies into my being to help raise my vibration. I also ask my guides to raise my vibration and to lower theirs so that we can communicate. I ask them to bring us to a vibration that we can have that interaction, because in my normal state, I can't hear them unless they make the effort
Right.
to bring it down low enough to where I'm at. But they vibrate at a much higher frequency than I do. So we have to meet somewhere in the middle ground. And then I think for the most part, the way that I experience it is the clairvoyance or claircognizance, where I ask a question, and it's usually me asking a question. So I have to be in a state of curiosity. Like I see something, like seeing isn't exactly accurate either, but the third eye seeing, I see something and I'm like, okay, so what is that? Um, so anyway, and then they'll let me know. Um,
So you
well,
are
what is it?
posing, in your mind, you are posing a question,
Yes,
and then you
yes,
get an immediate answer.
yes, yeah. Because, like I was saying to you earlier, people ask me questions, and I'll, even if I've opened up to, receiving, they'll ask me questions, and my first response, and usually I'll even say it out loud, is I don't know. And then immediately, boom, there it is. I know. I have an answer. You
No,
know,
wait, I do.
"Yeah, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. And there I just gave it,
Right? Exactly. No, I have to admit I've done the same thing. It's almost like, for me, I will check my memory bank. I know that sounds weird, and it won't
Mhm.
be there. And then instantaneously, a moment later, it is. I
Right.
wonder,
Like I don't have that in the file system. It's just not
right?
there. I don't
Right.
know. Then
Right.
suddenly I have something to communicate. But they don't give me word for word on it. They give me
Images
like,
or feelings or like flashes.
it's almost like a zip file. You know what I'm talking about with a zip
Yes.
file?
Yes, I
Where,
do.
yeah, it's like this complete,
A
this
ton of
complete,
information compacted into a little bitty package.
right? And then I have to translate it to words,
Right.
which I, I can really stumble at doing that sometimes, but other times I'm kind of gifted at being able to make analogies to help people kind of pull into, be able to feel and imagine themselves in a situation that is similar to where they're going, what they're trying to communicate. So it's
Do you,
extremely interesting to be a part of.
I bet. Do your guides, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second here. Do your guides have a message for the audience?
Well, again, remember that you are the gift that you brought here. You are that special. You are also one of 8 billion people on this planet. And that we all are that special, but you are unique in that you brought something that nobody else, you brought a combination of things that nobody else could bring with your own way to express it. Now, healing, in order, healing the conditioning is vitally important if you have a desire to be involved in the spiritual development process. Um, but even if you're not, if you don't want to be interacting with other people, if you don't want to teach, if you don't want to actively heal, getting more spiritually aligned will help you forward in any endeavor that you're involved in.
I
Um,
totally agree.
you know, but when you find, you'll find, and you'll know that you've hit a string, like you're a guitar. You'll know that you hit a string that's true, and it's not like, boom, now I'm who I really am, and now I'm gonna go upon. No, it's a development process, just like your conditioning and your programming was something that took time,
Yes,
to develop. And
yes.
it's because, we like our
We
vices.
we have to give ourselves permission, number
Mhm.
one, to feel what we feel. We have to give ourselves permission to connect to the messages without fearing that they are evil. And as
Mhm.
you said earlier, all you have to do is test the message, you know? Is it
Right.
for the higher good? Will it help someone? If it isn't, keep it to yourself, right?
Right. Demons and entities can lie, but energy cannot. So the pure energy, you can ask the pure energy what is true, and it has to tell you. It can't lie to you.
I
Um,
love that. Hello, Rose. Hello, Rose says, hello, everyone. I'm
Hi,
just going to go through
Rose.
the comments here. Daryl says, I call in the holy angels from the Most High for the highest and best way for my mind, body, and soul, and send them on missions. I'll call them back for information. The healing is working. That's cool.
Yeah,
I
now
would
I
like
have
to know
another
more
way of.
about that sometime, Daryl. I would like to interview you if you're open to that one day. But let's get back to what you were saying, Jenna. Sorry.
Well, let me respond to what Daryl said because I do the same thing. I just do it in different words. And what I do is that it's for the highest good of all beings. And that means planets, that means, I'm aiming for the highest good of all. Now, I don't have the power to do that. I don't have the capacity to do that. I am not selfless enough to be able to do that on my own. I will always be tainted because I'm in this human form,
Right.
but the universe can align it in that direction for me. And so that's like aiming for the highest good of all beings. And that's what he was talking about was when he asked for that help, that he's aiming for the highest.
Right.
And that's vitally important. Instead, if we're not doing that, then we're sliding into just wanting the power.
Yeah. And
We
that's
want
not,
the power to change or the power to see or the power to impress, you know.
I have never been a lover of power. What
Mm,
I have been is someone who likes confidence
mhm.
because confidence, oops, I almost tipped my phone over.
Well,
Confidence is something that I feel is very positive, whereas power can be a negative thing because what do they always say? Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
yes.
So I'm more about
Well, and
try to be your
Solomon
best.
proved that was too.
What
I
was
was
that?
saying King Solomon proved that he was a good example of that too. He had access to all wisdom, and then he ended up distorting it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yes.
But he
But I'm
certainly
I'm
knew who
just
the true mother was of that child because a true mother would want her child to live.
right. Right, but I'm just saying exactly what you were saying. I'm just giving a different example or giving an example of how that proved to be true.
Yeah.
You said that absolute power corrupts absolutely.
It does. It does. I have yet to see a good steward of power um, who hasn't had humbling first.
Hmm.
You know, you almost have to hit a rock bottom in your life to want to push up. And that's something that I don't think people understand. Sometimes rock bottom isn't a terrible thing because it means you
No,
can push yourself back up and get up from where you were if you were underwater, then you'll be above water and breathing and
I would
feeling
have
and
to say
enjoying this world.
I would have to say we get knocked to our knees so that we'll ask for help. We get knocked to our knees so that we'll actually end up in a position to pray and actually ask for some help. Because when
Mhm.
we try to do it on our own, we end up digging the hole instead of climbing our way out of it.
Right,
You know,
right. And
there
it's
are,
amazing. We
yeah,
don't even know we're doing it.
no,
But
we have no idea.
the minute we humble ourselves, we have answers.
Right. And the minute that we admit that we need help, that, like we were talking about before, you and I were talking about before the show, is that human beings were not meant to do this thing alone. We were meant to work together.
Yes.
And that's why we have such a variety. We have such diversity, to use a commonly used phrase, but I don't mean it quite in that way. Because we all can contribute in different ways so that the whole becomes greater than the parts.
Stone soup.
Yeah. But that we have access, and we were meant to always be connected to it. Our
Right.
own delusions and illusions are what give us the sense of disconnection.
Right.
But access to the entire potential of potential. I mean, because you say the universe, but the universe is beyond any physical space
Right.
of potential that is biased toward our highest good and the highest good of all things.
Right.
That there's nothing
Because
that, this is what I say to my students. You, me, and God can get through anything. And maybe I am not the me that you need, it's somebody else, but you and the other person, it takes at least the three of us. You take any one of us out of that. Me and God can't do it for you. You and God, well, God created it where we need each other,
right.
and you and me, we might be able to do some pretty awesome things, but if it's not God directed or spirit of the universe directed, it's going to be misdirected. It won't benefit the whole. But when it benefits the whole, it benefits, when I'm doing something that benefits the whole, it benefits me too, because I'm part of the whole.
Yes. Indeed. What I
So,
meant by
okay.
what I was just gonna say, what I meant by stone soup, for those of you who might not know this, what Jenna was saying is sometimes in my opinion, it takes a village to get something done. And
Mhm.
the story of stone soup is that people were going hungry, but they wouldn't share the little bit they had with each other. And then this traveler came into town and he said, "Oh, I can feed your whole town." And they're like, "How can you do that?" And he said, "I have a magic stone and it will make soup." And so he put this, he said, "Can someone bring me some water?" Well, everyone had water, so they all dumped their water into this big kettle. And he put his stone in. And he said, "Oh, if only we had just a little bit of onion." Someone brought some onion. "Oh, if only we had a little bit of potato." Someone brought some potato. You see where I'm going?
Mhm.
Eventually, someone brought a little bit of meat and someone brought some herbs. And before they knew it, everyone was fed. But it wouldn't have happened if they hadn't worked together. So, what
Right.
happens if we don't listen to our guides?
Well, especially if we're in connection with our guides. And honestly, we are rebellious people. We want to do it our way. We think we know what's best. Even even if we're lost, confused, and overwhelmed, we have an expectation that we're supposed to figure it out on our own.
Right?
And a lot of times the guide's suggestion seems unrelated to the situation. And so it's easy for us to just because it doesn't seem like that's a piece of the puzzle to what I'm working on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that's familiar with the big book, um, I absolutely suggest you read page 52, because it gives us a very simple answer. And this isn't necessarily guides, but remember that when we're dealing with the highest, then we get the help of a whole lot of others, you
Right?
know. Um, and it's developing a simple reliance upon the spirit of the universe. So to learn how to have a simple reliance, that when I ask for help, I will be helped.
Right?
When I ask to be comforted, I will be comforted. I may not feel it in that moment. Maybe I need to have that but the comfort will come. When I need a solution, there is a solution, and it will come to me in the right time when I'm ready to use it. So it really has to do with a willingness. And at first, it's a trust in what you can't see. But unless you try it out and keep trying out the ideas and inspirations and sometimes the actual voice, and oh my goodness, does that make you think you're insane when you hear the voice. Fortunately, at that time, my counselor also had been a former priest that had his own church. So I was able to present to him, I think you need to send me to the psych ward. And then he heard me and he said, oh no, you're not crazy. This is what you had. This is what happened. And he explained it to me. So very fortunate that I had that person. But
I would explain it as a still small voice inside of us that tells us the truth.
sometimes it's not so small, because the more you ignore, you keep asking your guys and you keep asking God for help and you keep ignoring it, the messages get louder.
Yeah, they do.
They do. And they can be like smack you in the face kind of loud.
Yeah, they can. Especially in dealing with people, people that you thought you knew or trusted, and then they show a different side, and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know now. I think that because we are all fallible, we should try not to judge as much as maybe we do, unless it is for a good reason. If it keeps us from being negative or not wanting to be that way, it's okay to judge. But maybe not to be judging harshly if you don't know the whole story. Do you agree with
But
that?
that's really, well, I do, but it's also really through the training and conditioning and fear that I'm not enough, or however it comes about, has become automatic. It's reflex for us. We don't think about it, we just do it. So to begin to become honest that, well, I do judge. I judge people for being this and this and this, and go ahead and call them the cuss words and everything. Say, I do this.
Mhm.
Is that the kind of person I want to be?
Mm-mm.
Is a beginning of being honest with ourselves about it. And the more honest we are with ourselves about our flaws, that this is the stuff that I have, well, we can ask for help in relieving us. It's actually one of the phrases is, relieve me from the bondage of self-righteousness, self-aggrandizement, all the selves, self-consciousness, self-seeking, not as in soul searching, but just like seeking to gain, self-seeking.
Right.
That
Self-aggrandizement, where you're putting yourself first.
Right. Like, I'm better and I want to be better than everybody else. I'm smarter. I'm a better psychic. I'm a better healer. I'm a better this. Whatever that we think that we need. And really what that is it's a desire to be special. We want to be special because we feel like we're not. But as we get honest, just the willingness to be honest and to own up to, I'm an asshole. I judge people
Right?
and it makes me feel better about myself because they're a slob or they're this, or she did that with her boyfriend and no wonder why they have problems, when really, when you look back, I've done the same dang thing. But that practice of owning up to that helps it to lose its power.
Right.
So it's a process to move toward being less judgmental. We first have to admit that we are being that judgmental and then forgive ourselves for it, because
Yes.
Hey, who of us were raised not to be judgmental? What, I mean, look at a commercial, look at the television shows. I mean, everywhere we're completely surrounded by the message to you're not going to be happy unless you're better than everybody else. And so you have to
How
judge
can
them
we be?
so that it's better. Hmm?
How can we be? How can we be better than everybody else? I like this analogy, and let's see if you agree with me. Let's just all be roses or daisies or daffodils or violets or lilies of the valley and
Hmm.
shine and be our own flower, be our own selves. But we are part of the universe's garden.
Yes. But it's the problem that we have is that in the moment, like when somebody cuts you off on the road, they are instantly a cuss word.
Right.
But if we cut somebody off in the road, well, oh well,
Then
you know.
sorry.
Right? So I now see I would end up feeling self-conscious that oh my gosh, I just made somebody mad, and but
We have
other
something
times,
in Minnesota. We do the wave. Like it's like a I'm so sorry kind of a wave.
yeah,
It's like I know I'm a dumbass. I know I'm an idiot. It's just like the sorry.
yeah.
I don't know if they do that where you are, but we do that here.
Some, but then we have our real road rage people that they're always right and everybody else on the road is wrong,
Oh boy.
kind of all over the place. That happens.
Narcissists are us.
Yeah, right, right.
I probably shouldn't say that. Rose says we are often our own worst enemy. That's very
Yeah,
true. But you know
yes,
what? We can learn how to be our own best friend too. We can find the
right.
good in ourselves and in other people. And if nothing else, it makes people wonder what you're on because, you seem to have found the path and the happiness. And they don't have that. So they're going to ask you, are you on something? And you know what I say? Yeah, faith. I have faith
Right.
that I am going to do my best today. I have faith that I am going to wake up tomorrow on my best possible timeline. I have faith that if someone comes to me and they need help, and if I can give it, I will. And if I can't, I'll
Mm,
be honest with them and tell them why. You know,
right.
I trust myself, but I also know that there is so much more than just me, and that there is a higher power, and that I am divinely protected because the
Right.
universe supports every positive action, right?
Well, I think it's important that we make an attempt to align ourselves with that higher power because if we don't, then we may be making our best effort, but we'll be heading in the wrong direction by mistake.
Right?
We don't screw things up on purpose. We're always doing the best that we know how to do. But in order to have the most successful results towards solutions, whether that's for ourselves or for other people, and to participate in being part of the solution, the most efficient way to do that is to be in alignment, to become closer to alignment, perfect alignment. There's not a whole lot of perfection happening that way, but our effort to be in alignment is enough. That's all we have to do is try, you
Right.
know.
Well,
So
I really appreciate you being on with me today. We are already at 109, which means an hour and 9 minutes has already gone by. Can you believe it?
yeah, well, I can because my dog just came over and looked at me like it's
It's
about
time
time
to
for
go
you to
out,
talk.
Mom.
Right. And
Oh, well,
he's
thank you. Thank
respectful
you.
timing.
Thank you for coming back. Thank you for getting your message out. I really enjoyed it. The audience really enjoyed it. And after the show, I'll send you your link, and I'll send it to anybody else who wants it too. I uh, uh, I just really super appreciate it. And that is all for now, dear lights. Thank you so much for joining us. Never forget that you are amazing. You are loved. Be well, be safe out there, and we'll see you on the next show. Bye.
Bye.